Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see you. Let me introduce myself. My name is Sonia. I apologize for my English. If it's not clear for you, ask again. I was a member of EcoCamp in 2016, and now I'm a postgraduate student of Tomsk State University, the Department of Ecological Management. I study the issues of further development of our civilization and the interaction with our planet. Also, I am interested in the concept of sustainable development, and this concept and its analogies and alternatives. Also, I'm interested in issues of overconsumption and environmental education. First of all of you are volunteers, ecological volunteers now, and today we discuss some basic ecological concepts. First of all, the concept of ecosystem. Ecosystem is a basic of all ecology, and ecosystem or ecological system consists of some parts. Let's guess which parts is consist of. For example,
water.
Yes, another. Sun energy, yeah. Of course, some other.
Atmosphere itself, rocks,
trees, and all in all, it's called organisms. Notice, you was right that water, sun energy, atmosphere, and organisms such as plants, animals, fungi, microorganisms, and etc. Organism habitats is called biotope. It's a place, for example, water place or soil place or some part of the earth where the organisms are living, and historically established set of organisms which inhabited some territory calls biosynosis. So biosynosis is living on the biotope. Biotope is a space, biosynosis is a set of organisms. And together these two parts calls ecosystem, which is very the most important for ecosystem. Two parts, and what happened with these parts? They should be communicated, have links with each other. So separately, biotope and biosynosis are not a system, but when they communicate, it's an ecosystem. So in communication between all organisms and the place where they are living, there are some processes when they обмениваются, get some matter and energy between each other. So when the spring of energy or some matter go from biotope to biosynosis and from biosynosis to biotope, so there are link with between these parts. It's an ecosystem. Is it clear? For example, we can compare it as an internet for modern people. We communicate by this resource, and in nature, the internet is communication between biotope and biosynosis in ecosystem. Examples of ecosystem. Can you tell some examples?
Of ecosystems?
Yeah.
Like in the sea, for example?
Sea? Yes. Some, for example, Mediterranean Sea is an ecosystem, and some other sea can be an ecosystem. Why it's an ecosystem? Because the organisms were living in the sea, and water in the sea, and some sun energy, and a lot of other physical, chemical, biological aspects are communicate. When they are communicate in a local place, it's an ecosystem. For example, the pond can be an ecosystem because we can see organisms, we can see location, space where the organisms are living, and each ecosystem have their own parameters, physical parameters, for example, temperature of atmosphere, temperature of water, the kind of soil. It's a set of chemical parameters. For example, in the sea, the water is salt, so it's a chemical parameter. Biological parameter, how many different organisms are living in this ecosystem, and etc. Is it clear that every ecosystem have their own parameters? For example, the growth, it's a university, our university growth is an ecosystem because have a top, a place, and a set of organisms and their own parameters. Ecosystems can be natural, only natural, but and can be imagine after anthropogenical. For example, when we grow some plants in the territory where they are not grown themselves, we make an anthropogenical ecosystem. It's an ecosystem, but it's not native for some location where we grow these plants, for example. It's an ecosystem's rather big как бы, scale. But ecosystems can be only a branch of tree and only one organism which live in there. For example, ecosystem may be a hummock in a swamp. It's an ecosystem too. So it doesn't depend on small or big is a place and how many organisms live in this place. All communication between organisms and location is a system. It's very huge ecosystems, for example, island, or you said that sea can be an ecosystem. As I said, the communication is most important for ecosystem. It's the main parameter of every ecosystem. So the most common for organisms is nutritional relationships. So some organisms eat another organisms. It's the more common communication in the nature. Let's imagine some food chain, for example, this. As a rule, it begins with producers of biomass. What organisms can be producers? Produce energy for plant? Yes. The first chain of the link of the chain of links is a plant. So because plant can produce in the photosynthesis process. Then some other organisms, for example, herbivorous animals which eat only plants, is the second part, the second chain of the second part of the chain. So they eat plants, and then some other organisms eat these organisms, and every chain can be large or small, but the first slide was about a circle in the nature. So every chain of nutritional relationships can be a circle. Then predators animals feed other animals, and in any ecosystem there are organisms which destroy biomass. So after predators are, for example, some microorganisms, fungi, and etc., which destroy other organisms. When they die, they destroy these organisms to what? And what happened then?
One more time.
Yes, organisms the matter converts to energy, and the chain can occur one more time. So there is an exchange of substance and energy, of matter and energy within the system and their top, because every system community with with nature. Of course, there are more complex systems of bonds between organisms. Some species change the living conditions of other species. Have you any examples when some species can change living conditions of other species? Yes, for example, symbiosis, when two organisms, they are not eat each other, they communicate from some other species, some other way. For example, they depends on each other, but it's a friendship, as a friendship. For example, in grass is not doesn't grow, a high grass is not grow in under conifers, under some species of plants. For example, in Siberia there are a lot of conifers, such as Pinus siberica, for example. These plants are not living with higher grass, for example. And some other communication. Animals transfer plant seeds and help plants to spread for more territory than it's help plants. For example, the bird can eat this seed, but it lose some seeds, and plants can grow in other territory because the bird brings the these spreads for this territory. Is it clear? Then some contribution. Birds build nests using the parts of other organisms. For example, parts of plants, parts of grass, parts of other birds. I mean, feathers of birds. When the bird make a nest, it use the feathers of other birds. It's some communication too. Yes, everything is interconnect within the systems. So in the global sense, the big connect with the small, the simple connect with the complex. So systems are included in each other. For example, the system where was a squirrel, the system of only one branch of the tree is included in more big system as a tree, all tree, and the tree is include in a forest, and some simple systems are included in some other more complex systems. But if you remove only one element, you can break all system. It's a main feature of ecosystems that if we remove or kill or some other ways delete only one organism, we can break all system. The largest system in our planet is what system? Can you tell?
Solar system.
It's bigger than our planet, but in our planet, the largest system is a biosphere. Biosphere is a shell of our Earth, which life is spread. So it can be deeper in the ocean, deep in the soil, in the atmosphere, just everywhere where organisms are living is a biosphere. Сейчас. In fact, its biosphere is in our planet itself. So the Earth, when we think about Earth as a planet where there is life, we think about biosphere. Do you know this human? It's American writer Ray Bradbury. He was a writer in 20th century, and I want to tell you about his story, A Sound of Thunder. Don't know this. In this story, this story is about death of a butterfly, and this happened in the distant past, but changes in the world was of a very distant future. It calls a butterfly effect. Do you know this? What? The butterfly effect is very important for ecosystems. So if we kill a butterfly, if we kill every any organism, any one, then we can change the historical process, evolution process, and in future it can be unpredictable changes. It's as affected Jenga when we remove one piece of Jenga, then we can break all. Besides the biosphere, in our planet there is another global complex system. About what system I say? Do you know? The biosphere is a natural system, but another system is civilization, is an anthropogenical humanity system. So these two very complex, very difficult systems are communicate, and this communication is very problematic nowadays. Так. People create complex artificial chains of relationships using natural resources. То есть people communicate with our planet, for example, when they use natural resources. Which resource do you know?
The water.
Yes, another.
Minerals.
Yes.
Materials as food.
Yes, it's all of you say that there are natural resources. When we think about resources, first of all, as for me, I represent minerals. For example, oil, gas, coal, metal, ores, and some other. People of our planet are consumers. They consume the resources of our planet, and often people guide by the principle enough for me, enough for our time. But what happened next? People don't worry about. Often people don't worry about that what happened next when we die with our planet. Don't forget that natural resources are not only the stocks of our planet. For example, materials, water, and some other resources. When we can see, we can touch, and we use in our everyday life. Clean atmosphere, clean air, clean water, drinkable water, it's an important resource too. Also, the places where go to the rest, where recreation places, is a resource too, and it's a natural resource. Don't forget about this. And our good mood is also a resource. But when we get from the nature, when we see beautiful nature places, for example, we have this invisible resource that and a good image and a good mood, and we share it with each other. So don't forget that nature is a wonderful resource. Except us, there are a huge number of other inhabitants on the earth, and that also need the resources for their life, and they also use the resources of our planet. And the task of mankind, the task of humanity, is to save the planet for further generations, not only of humanity, but of all inhabitants of our planet. The equilibrium of ecosystems include the biosphere always balanced on a brink. It's a very thin equilibrium point. Anthropogenic activity often shifts the equilibrium from one to another hand, and upsetting and unstable balance. Balance can be broken by anthropogenic some human activities. Yes, nature is able to maintain the homeostasis. What the concept of homeostasis is? It's an equilibrium of each ecosystem when the ecosystem can repair again, can live during some time. But when we broke the homeostasis of some ecosystem, we can broke all our biosphere, because it's communicate. All systems are communicate from each other. So nature can be able to remove this, but not always. Up to some point, there is a point of no return. This point is every system has a point of no return, and we should don't forget about it. For example, it's a point of no return for this ecosystem. The anthropogenic activity was destroyable, and this system will be very difficult to remove itself. Now let's look an example of such structure as an ozone layer. Do you know that what is an ozone layer? What is it? An ozone layer?
What is it called?
Ozone layer. Yeah.
What's that?
So it's a layer which filters out some bandwidth of frequency of some which is basically harmful for human bodies.
Yes, and due to what process this layer the ozone layer is a part of stratosphere, an altitude of 20 or 25 kilometers from the earth, from the land, from the land. Now, in the tropics, this altitude is 25 or 30 kilometers, but at the poles it's 15 or 20 kilometers, because our planet is not.
It's moving, it's spinning around.
Yes. Within the highest, this layer is consists of ozone, the higher concentration of ozone. Ozone is a substance whose molecules consist of 3 oxygen atoms. Ozone layer formed as a result of ultraviolet radiation, impact of the sun molecule oxygen. So it was an oxygen where there are 2 atoms of oxygen, and then the ultraviolet radiation of the sun have an impact of the oxygen in our atmosphere. So the ozone can appear this way. And this is a thin, fragile as a bubble, as a soap bubble. Ozone layer is a soap bubble of our planet. It's very fragile substance. It's a membrane which allow positive radiation through the ozone layer to our land, and forbidden for negative radiation from cosmos. The ozone layer can be destroyed by various compounds. For example, nitrogen and hydrogen, halogens, fluorocarbons, and etc. Destroy substances. Of course, all of these, such as nitrogen, hydrogen, halogens, are found in nature, in atmosphere, in lithosphere, and in some other structures of our nature. But synthesizing them by humanity from these own needs, for example, for chemistry, for some for needs of humanity, jeopardize ozone. So, так, сейчас. Let's. It's a game, I think, that we can guess if this is harmful for ozone layer or not. На экран не выводится. Сейчас, just a minute. На экран вывести. Так, just a minute. Как на экран другой файл вывести? Ну, то есть, чтобы... Свет, как другой файл вывести на экран? Ну, пока в Word, потом обратно вернуться в презентацию.
Смотри, ты его открываешь и перетаскиваешь вот так. Вот видишь?
Ага,
так,
за экран.
продолжение.
Все, спасибо. Ага. Так. Да, понятно. Спасибо. Мгм. Um, let's discuss if this is harmful for ozone layer or not. Can you?
Is this what?
Um,
These things?
yeah.
Is what?
For ozone layer, is it harmful?
Not good.
Yeah. Do you think that it's not? It's neutral for ozone layer, yeah?
Yeah, I think.
But when we take the benzene, some как сказать, some benzene spread of our atmosphere in atoms, in so micro parts of substance, the benzene. But with our atmosphere, it can go to the ozone layer, some microparts, some atoms of substance, and broke a micro holes on the ozone layer. So if the benzene in the atmosphere in a micro in a low небольшом количестве. It's if it's so micro, it's a natural. But when it's more, it have an influence. So how we can avoid this? To construct this more and more isolate from contact with atmosphere. So when we when the benzene is not contact with atmosphere, it's okay. But when the contact is, the micro parts of substance can go far in the atmosphere to ozone layer. The next. Does it harmful? Is it harmful for ozone layer?
It could be harmful.
Yeah. Why?
When it broke off, we have uranium gases or something.
Yes, it's true. The sun. Is it good, natural, or harmful for ozone layer?
It's the source of ozone layer, so I guess it's not harmful because without sunlight, ozone layer wouldn't exist, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. That ozone layer far many times ago was appear due to sun. So the sun radiation is not harmful because the ozone layer can, as a membrane, can allow go through the positive radiation and forbidden of the negative radiation. When we, for example, have a have как сказать, It's a yod.
It's
It's a bone.
Mm. Yod with an ether. So when we open the bottle with the yod, the ether go to atmosphere and spread far away. Then the simple is the similar to this. In micro parts of substance are not harmful, but when they spread far away in atmosphere to ozone layer, it can be harmful. That is why. Yes, because it have a mechanism where it spread the substance from far away from atmosphere. So all aerosols are harmful for ozone layer because it help the microparts of substance where is in the aerosol go far away from atmosphere to ozone layer. So the mechanism is harmful for this mechanism is harmful for ozone layer. It's a similar situation. Chlorine. Where the chlorine is used? Chlor.
swimming pool. It can be harmful for the skin.
For skin, yes, but for ozone layer.
Yes, because it makes this decay of ozone layer faster.
Yes, chlor is a with other halogens. It's the most harmful substance for ozone layer, because chlor destroy the molecule of ozone. So that's why it's harmful. It's a similar situation with yod. When we open the bottle, some microparts of substance spread to atmosphere. It's the same situation. Refrigerator, fridge, old fridge.
It's harmful
Why? Because in old refrigerators, fridges was halogens was the main substance which make frozen. So from the other from the back of refrigerator was a system, yeah, where halogens, chlorofluorocarbon substances make frozen. So this substances, these matters are harmful from ozone layer, then old fridges are harmful too. The main situation from aerosol. This mechanism is harmful. So when we spread some substances in our atmosphere due to this mechanism, we destroy the ozone layer. It's a nature gas. The gas which we when the oil when people get oil from the land, we can also get a gas. So this gas is harmful in a huge yes, is it harmful? It's not good.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, if it's broken, it's also
It's a halogenic lamp. When we broken this, the halogen came to atmosphere and the same situation. It's freons. It's a substance which, in the refrigerator.
This one, I guess, there is freon too.
Maybe. I don't know, unfortunately. It's a fear. So when we open, it's can fly for atmosphere very fast, and some substance which we mix with this substance can fly for atmosphere very fast too, and it's harmful. And the last page is a cow. Is neutral or harmful or positive for ozone layer?
It's natural and completely awful, I think.
Why?
Because of the Chinese farting. What? Yeah, the farting. Yeah. I was reading that it's the most dangerous to the ozone.
Yes, it's dangerous for ozone layer because the gas practically this. So the cows are harmful for ozone layer too. Так, Света, у нас время или можно еще? Парочку минут можно. Но у меня тут без одной написано. Много. 5, спасибо. So our time, unfortunately, is off, and now I think we can. So the Earth is our home, and in order for all inhabitants to feel good, for example, humanity and other organisms, other ecosystems, all ecosystems, so biosphere, ozone layer, and every part of our Earth feels good, we should follow some rules. Which rules we should follow to save our planet, for example. How we can save our planet, how we can...
with education?
Excuse
with
me?
more education to the next generation about ecology and these kind of topics.
Thank you, yes, and some other things about it.
For sure, we should look for other resources of energy, because now most of them are based on fossil fuels and
Renewable
burning
energies.
those. Yeah, but it's not gonna happen like quickly all of the sudden. So, but anyway, we need to focus on other sources of energy, not only based.
Yeah, it's important problem, yeah. Some other. For example, when we use water, we can use it less, and for example, energy and some other things which we use every day. We can save it, and so we can save our planet in all. The responsibility for using resource is the responsibility of everyone in our planet. Thank you very much for discussion. And it is all.
Если у тебя есть еще что-то, ты можешь все-таки закончить.
Но это еще минут на 20.
Ну, я поговорила, у нас есть время. В общем,
Да? Спасибо. Так. Okay, now we continue. And just a minute. Вот. Сейчас, секунду. Все, я уже... Так. It's Russian scientist and... она не показывает. It's Vladimir Vernadsky, a Russian scientist and philosopher of 20th century. Сейчас. A natural science basis and philosophical basis in the field of co-evolutionary development of nature and humanity was start from him. He was the author of Doctrine of the Biosphere and Noosphere. He believed that the future development of our civilization will be based on scientific thought and collective work, which in their unity will solve our planet. his article, a few words about noosphere, he wrote in this article, a great future opens in front of man if he understands it and does not use his mind and labor for self-destruction. So, do you agree with this thesis? That our future is in our hands if we do not harmful things for our planet. Yes. This idea.
To some degree, maybe, but sometimes we don't have possibility to change anything because when you look back to the geological past, there were periods of extinctions of animals and so on, and obviously there were no human-made, reasons for that.
So,
For instance, there can be like asteroid coming into the Earth, and we can't prevent it, and it has nothing to do with human activity and so on. And yeah, and it has happened like a few times at least during geological past. So I think it's good to think that we are able to handle situation and so on to some degree. Of course, we can influence how things continue and so on. But I think that it's not like that because I'm not sure like completely that we are responsible for climate changes because we can have some impact, but
of course.
I think it's very ignorant to think that human beings are the only factors that can speed up like climate changes and so on, because it's not like that, I think, because obviously not. But we should do our best, absolutely, to change it, but still I think that human impact is slower than we think it is, unfortunately. Maybe it's a bit counter public opinion and so on, but I believe in it. I'm a geologist when it comes to my background, but I realize very well that it's not so easy to understand all aspects, and yeah, that's my thought.
Yes, thank you for your opinion. I absolutely agree with you that not all things depends on of us, and something can be matter, but in our everyday life we can do some things to support our living in this.
We can, because we have impact on, I don't know, waters, for instance, so we can prevent pollution of waters, atmosphere and so on. But on a global scale, in a long run, like, I don't know, when you look at the time of, I don't know, a few thousand years or even more, I think it's, human impact isn't so big actually, like when it comes to global changes in the long run. But maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. It's hard to say because actually human researches, human activity when it comes to scientific activity isn't so long because it takes maybe, it has been introduced like maybe 200 years ago, so look at how old is Earth. So it's hard to really come to some conclusions which would be robust and valuable. I don't know. Okay. I don't want to continue.
It's very interesting things, and thank you for this. And how? What do you know that? What do you think? If the humanity can return some global changes, or the point of no return is closely for us for nowadays.
I guess we are about to self-destruct. reality, but in case of any war, I can imagine the next world war, it would be very quick, I guess, because it would involve nuclear bombs and so on, so it would be...
I like the Thanos theory in the Avengers movie, that we are too much population for the resources available.
Oh, this is true,
So
but this is very
yes,
true, because
I like
resources
it.
are limited, and
Yeah.
in the course of, I don't know, a few decades, it will be a huge problem. And another case is that people who now live in South Asia, within a few decades, it will be not longer possible for them to stay there because of sea level rising a bit. I mean, those changes are small, but still. And temperature goes up quite rapidly, maybe because of human activity as well. Because like greenhouse effect is something natural, right? Because it's caused mainly more than 90% it's caused by natural activities like volcanoes, oceans and so on. I mean seaweeds, so organisms which live in oceans. But for sure human activity speeded it up a bit in the last few decades.
The last slide was about sustainable development. So the equilibrium can be only when the environmental, social and economic parts are in equilibrium, but as you say that it's very difficult to come to this equilibrium. So the global problems.
The yellow one is related to birds.
No.
Oh no.
No, just kidding.
You know, it's very,
Yeah.
I can't go, for
Yeah.
instance, I can't stand. So this is the same word.
One of
It's
the
not good, but it's okay.
yes, and this is a utopia, maybe, to get this equilibrium, the equilibrium of environment, social and economic, because it can matter anything, as you say. One of the most actual problems of our civilization is uncontrolled consumption, and unfortunately, and some other problems consist with it. So some scientists, some humanitarian scientists said that if we solve this problem, we can solve other global social problems of our civilization. But it's a discussable question, and I think all of us have your own opinion about global problems, about the future of our planet, the future of our civilization. So if we discuss it, was, I think, we can. We should have a lot of time to discuss these questions, because it's philosophical questions. So for conclusion, I think we look some rolik to just a minute. Света. Опять что-то не работает. Он не работает. Надо выключить презентацию, потому что мы более-менее разобрали, остальное не успеем. Я покажу ролик, и на этом мы закончим. все, спасибо. Да, видимо, да. Так. Плохо, что не видно.
This is the story of 3 plastic bottles, empty and
А
discarded.
почему?
Their journeys are about to diverge with outcomes that impact nothing less than the fate of them.
Угу.
So guys, do you know why it's something like this?
The screen works?
Yes. Жень, можешь подойти, пожалуйста?
Try with Windows P.
Обычно нужно так, что выбираешь его, открываешь его экран, и только можешь.
Спасибо.
But they weren't always this way. This is the story of 3 plastic bottles, empty and discarded. Their journeys are about to diverge with outcomes that impact nothing less than the fate of the planet. But they weren't always this way. To understand where these bottles end up, we must first explore their origins. The heroes of our story were conceived in this oil refinery. The plastic in their bodies was formed by chemically bonding oil and gas molecules together to make monomers. In turn, these monomers were bonded into long polymer chains to make plastic in the form of millions of pellets. Those were melted at manufacturing plants and reformed in molds to create the resilient material that makes up the triplets' bodies. Machines filled the bottles with sweet, bubbly liquid, and they were then wrapped, shipped, bought, opened, consumed, and unceremoniously discarded. And now here they lie, poised at the edge of the unknown. Bottle 1, like hundreds of millions of tons of its plastic brethren, ends up in a landfill. This huge dump expands each day as more trash comes in and continues to take up space. As plastics sit there being compressed amongst layers of other junk, rainwater flows through the waste and absorbs the water-soluble compounds it contains. And some of those are highly toxic. Together, they create a harmful stew called leachate, which can move into groundwater, soil, and streams, poisoning ecosystems and harming wildlife. It can take bottle 1 an agonizing 1,000 years to decompose. Bottle 2's journey is stranger, but unfortunately no happier. He floats on a trickle that reaches a stream that flows into a river, and a river that reaches the ocean. After months lost at sea, he's slowly drawn into a massive vortex where trash accumulates, a place known as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Here, the ocean's currents have trapped millions of pieces of plastic debris. This is one of 5 plastic-filled gyres in the world's seas, places where the pollutants turn the water into a cloudy plastic soup. Some animals, like seabirds, get entangled in the mess. They and others mistake the brightly colored plastic bits for food. Plastic makes them feel full when they're not, so they starve to death and pass the toxins from the plastic up the food chain. For example, it's eaten by lanternfish. The lanternfish are eaten by squid. The squid are eaten by tuna, and the tuna are eaten by us. And most plastics don't biodegrade, which means they're destined to break down into smaller and smaller pieces called microplastics, which might rotate in the sea eternally. But Bottle 3 is spared the cruel purgatories of his brothers. A truck brings him to a plant where he and his companions are squeezed flat and compressed into a block. Okay, this sounds pretty bad too, but hang in there, it gets better. The blocks are shredded into tiny pieces, which are washed and melted, so they become the raw materials that can be used again. As if by magic, Bottle 3 is now ready to be reborn as something completely new. For this bit of plastic with such humble origins, suddenly, the sky is the limit.
So, if we will do what we can do to save our planet, I think we can. We don't know. Can we save it? But we our life and the living of some other organisms of our planet can be better. So thank you very much for our lecture.
Thank you for your presentation.
Спасибо.